Welcome to another edition of Celtics Roundtable powered by CLNS Media. I'm Jonathan Levy. I'm joined by Lucky's Pipe, Evan Valenti, Matthew Ignal, and Sam Sheehan. We are going to continue to talk about the future of the Boston Celtics, and we're talking about the very coming future, the near future, people. What are we doing with this number one pick? What does free agency really look like? Should we be trading Avery Bradley? Let's get into it.
Smart's going to be up soon. Bradley's going to get a big deal soon. You know, one of those guys probably has to go. Because, like, Jay Crowder is, like, one of the more valuable assets in the NBA. He's a cheap contract, guards a ton of positions, shoots well from three-point range when he's feeling it. Although he's not – he was better last year. I'm not sure if he was hurt so much this year, but it just felt like he had a better year. But, like, Avery Bradley has gotten so much better every year. And in the postseason, you really see it when he's become such a reliable three-point shooter and just a reliable scorer for them in the first quarter and a good rebounder. And, you know, his defense gets a little bit more, I think, attention from a national stage because when he has to go up against KYRIE Irving or a Jimmy Butler or a guy like John Wall, like it's always going to be primetime television, whereas like Marcus does so many other things like off the ball that you don't see a ton of that make a ton of sense. And he's a guy that doesn't shoot well, but does everything else to like affect winning a basketball game. So it's one of the ultimate, you know, philosophies. Do you trade a guy that is you've had in your system for a long time, part of the culture, a guy that you might quote unquote owe it to, or you just go with Marcus and hope that he continues to develop on that trail? It's tough. I think Bradley's the odd man out, though, just because, you know, they don't want to pay him that absurd contract and get away with paying Marcus not a whole ton for a little while longer. And
well, this is the Avery Bradley paradox, right? That everybody says, like, oh, he's so underrated. He looks like a great player out there, and he's one of the league's best defenders. I think he was first team all defense just a year ago, and he shoots it well from three. And then you sort of look at the on-off numbers, and they're just horrid, and they've been sort of that way, or at least not as good as you might think by looking, you know, with the eye test. Really, I first noticed it that breakout year that he had. I think was his second year in the NBA. I remember just looking at his like on-off defensive numbers, and they were just, you know, they were okay. He was really all KG. So there might just be something in Avery Bradley's game that sort of sticks out, that makes him look a little bit better than he actually is. And it's sort of the opposite things with Jay Crowder, where, you know, casual fans often rip Jay Crowder for not being good, and then you go to, you know, his real plus minus, box plus minus, or just regular old plus minus, and it looks terrific. So, you know, but then again, I think back to, you know, that Chicago Bulls series where Avery Bradley D'd up Jimmy Butler, and it's difficult weighing all this. But I think, Sam, you were sort of hitting on that the young guys, I mean, their contracts are locked in and they're cheap, and you know, maybe more valuable to keep those guys around for the foreseeable future.
So one of the things I did was, because I sort of had an inkling that this might be the case, but when I went and actually did the numbers, they are really sobering. If the Celtics do get Gordon Hayward or another max guy, so that's like the big assumption on this logic you need to make. If this is the if they get Gordon Hayward or a maxed Blake Griffin or like a high money Paul Millsap, you know, whatever the case may be, that in 2018, when it comes time to pay Isaiah, without even paying Isaiah, they're up against the tax. Like, the Celtics are already up against the tax, like, just with Isaiah Thomas's cap hold. And if you assume Isaiah Thomas is going to command more than $10, which I think is a pretty safe bet, unless he, you know, something like awful happens, like, he will, you know, he's going to get more money than that, and you will almost definitely be paying the tax, which, you know, to some Celtics fans, like, all right, whatever, fine. But that also, those projections accounted for me trading Avery Bradley already. So, you know, like, so if you're paying two of Bradley Smart or Bradley Smart or Thomas, like, if you choose to pay two of those guys, you almost certainly will be paying the tax. If it's Marcus you're trading, it's probably going to be a lot worse, because Marcus's restricted free agency is likely to depress his value a little bit. Like, just guys with restricted free agency don't get as much money because teams don't want to throw big offer sheets and, you know, have all that money tied up for 2 days only for the team to match them. And, you know, Marcus might even get extended. Like, I don't even know what the logic would be. But when you look at it that way, that, like, the Celtics are going to be taxpayers, like, someone has to go. So then if someone has to go, you want to do it this year. before, like you guys had said, before like the assets expire, Danny Ainge likes to get clearly likes to get something for his assets. If those guys are going, you don't want to make the room for Gordon Hayward this season by like trading Terry Rozier and like, cutting, we didn't get to see much of Demetrius Jackson, but who knows? Like he might be like lots of second round picks have panned out. You know what I'm saying? Like just because he didn't play, we still don't really know what we have in him. Probably nothing, but you got all these young guys who you would cut. But if you trade Bradley, like you need to get rid of one person, I guess is what I'm saying. Unless you want to be real cold and make IT the guy and move him, I tend to think maybe that Avery Bradley might have more trade value than Isaiah Thomas, as insane as that sounds, just because like Isaiah Thomas, like a lot of other teams don't want to pay Isaiah Thomas $30 million. Teams talk themselves out of this kind of stuff all the time. He's small. He can't defend. And, with Marcus Smart's restricted free agency and just, what a good player Isaiah Thomas is, for me, it kind of has to be Avery Bradley. I don't really see any other way around it.
So you think he's looking, to make this sort of deal at the draft?
I wouldn't be shocked. I don't know if it's going to be right at the draft because I don't know if the Celtics are going to be trying to get more like rookies. But there's also Jaylen Brown who's going to need a spot down the road most likely on this team. So, signing all these guys to long deals, these are good players, but we're trying to get star players in. And Jaylen Brown has the chance to be a star, and so does Markelle Fultz, and so does the Nets pick in a year. So those are the guys we're really trying to build around ultimately, right?
Yeah, and I was tossing around the idea last podcast of, maybe combining J and AB for like, top 7 pick, looking at you, Tibbs, in the case that Isaac was available or something like that. But like, turning those guys that are good contracts, valuable players, but, turning them into a lottery talent that, is cheap and has that star potential, might be a play in the case that you get Hayward, but so much is riding on getting Hayward.
That's a bold move. Like I don't totally hate it. I like Jonathan Isaac a ton, but that is like sacrificing something to maybe potentially have a huge boom with Isaac. If you thought Isaac was like, or whoever the hell you want to put in that spot, was some like can't miss prospect, and you really believe that, and like you'd have to really be sold on something like that. That's a really, really bold move.
HelloFresh is the meal kit delivery service that makes cooking more fun so you can focus on the whole experience, not just the final plate. Each week, HelloFresh creates new, delicious recipes with step-by-step instructions designed to take about 30 minutes for everyone from novices to seasoned home cooks short on time. HelloFresh sources the freshest ingredients measured to the exact quantities needed so there's no food waste. And HelloFresh delivers food to your doorstep in a recyclable insulated box for free. And HelloFresh is now offering light spring meals and has just introduced breakfast options. Now, the loyal listeners of CLNS Media in this very podcast get a special offer. Get this. You can use the promo code BEAT30 for $30 off your first week of HelloFresh. Again, support this production and try HelloFresh for free. Simply visit HelloFresh.com, enter the promo code BEAT30.
So when does this big trade go down?
I think you listen to the phone calls on draft night. You make it clear Avery Bradley's available. And you see what people come back to you with. If someone wants to give you, because the thing is, the Celtics can't take back more than $4 million. Like they need to kind of have a small player coming back and like maybe a draft pick. Like that's what I would like. I think Avery Bradley has a lot of value to teams that are willing to pay a lot of money, but maybe might be close to the cap. Like maybe the Clippers. I don't know what that trade would be. It's really hard to find like the salary matching to send that back or like,
they have no picks either.
They have no picks, but teams like that are competitive and kind of have their chips pushed in a little bit and are trying to like improve. Do you guys think I've got the right read on it as far as like Avery Bradley? Would you guys consider dealing like Isaiah Thomas or Marcus Smart in lieu of him? Like, what's your take?
It's just hard, man, because Isaiah Thomas is like one of the more popular Celtics in a long time, and he was such a ridiculous fun player to watch this year, and it's hard to like even envision anybody trading Isaiah Thomas because of what he brought to the C's this year. But as Simmons said in his podcast, like Bill Belichick would trade Isaiah Thomas like right now, all-time high in terms of value. He's got one year left on the deal for cheap, and then someone's going to have to pay him. And Belichick's like, nah, I just don't want to pay him.
right? A good reason not to trade him is because he's the only guy who can score for this team, and the only guy who, when he's on the team, they actually have an above-average offense, and the rest of the time they're one of the worst offenses in the league, basically. Now, bringing in Fultz maybe changes that. Maybe bringing in Hayward changes that. But I personally think the cold-blooded approach is the only way to go when you've got the next 6 years we're looking at here from Ainge's point of view. And there's so many ducks to line up. You got to get them all in a row to do this right. You can't screw it all up right now, trying to make everybody, keeping all the fans happy for the next 2 years, and screw yourself out of championship possibilities down the road.
Yeah, I mean, a trade's going to come down. I can't see them parting with IT. I think that, seriously reduces the chances of them getting, a Gordon Hayward.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, like, my kind of prediction for the way this goes down is, they trade Bradley. If they don't do trade, I would personally be kind of hunting for a preemptive strike on draft night. So that way, if Gordon Hayward doesn't commit, you're not scrambling to find a deal. Because if you're scrambling to find a deal for Avery Bradley, like, you're not going to get much return. Draft night, you can probably tease things out a little bit, even though you do kind of run the risk of, trading Avery Bradley for, if Gordon Hayward doesn't come, you kind of set yourself back a little bit, because now what are you going to do with that? But I think, in the long run, what's going to be important is, I think if they get Gordon Hayward, I mean, obviously it comes down to getting Gordon Hayward. But if the Celtics are able to get Gordon Hayward, they're in really, really, really good shape. Everything else just sort of comes down to tax issues. And I would say Isaiah Thomas, then you're honestly in a good situation with Isaiah Thomas, because you can use the last year of his deal to just sort of see what happens. A lot can happen in a year. There's all sorts of ways. Like, the Celtics aren't going to have cap space again. That's the other, important thing. Jaylen Brown and Fultz's deals way down the line, Marcus Smart's deals. Like, there's no way for them to have cap space pretty much again for the foreseeable future without really gutting the team and, like, trading Horford and doing all sorts of crazy things that I really don't think they should do. I think that's more the move. I think you trade Avery Bradley preemptively, run the risk, go all in for Gordon Hayward, and then, sort of see what happens with Isaiah Thomas during the year and sort of make that decision when it comes up in 2018.
And you can totally sell Hayward on the fact that, you might be losing Avery, but you're going to, he's getting those shots, or, if you trade Jay, he's going to get those shots.
Well, you can spin
he's going to fill that role.
Right. You say you could spin it as, this is how all in we are for you. We've made this commitment specifically for you to clear our shooting guard spot.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we'll see. It's definitely going to be an interesting offseason. I'm going to the draft. I've already got my Markelle Fultz number 20 jersey. So I absolutely deserve ball. That's what I'm saying. They will cut to me in the crowd. I will be forever enshrined in ESPN history as the crying Porzingis kid, but, like, giant man-child weeps in Markelle Fultz jersey. I'm running the risk of making myself a YouTube sensation, but it's worth it. I'm gonna go.
That's awesome. I got that Markelle shirt. You guys, I don't know if you follow that Tyler James guy on our, like, what he sells, like, shirts for CLNS, but he has this shirt called Saved by Markelle. I might have to wear it.
Kelly Olynyk is Topanga. Or is that What's Boy Meets World?
Boy Meets World, bro. You
God damn
any sitcoms messed up like that?
All right.
What are you doing, bro?
I'm never invited back. If I'm banned for life, I totally understand. You guys are absolutely in the right to do that.
I couldn't name a Saved by the Bell character after Zach and Screech, honestly.
It's more Levy's time.
Let me say one thing, you bastards. I'm all for getting Gordon Hayward, but the Celtics aren't going to win a title building around Isaiah Thomas. The Celtics are going to win a title building around Jaylen Brown and Markelle Fultz. That's where the next title team's coming from. Taking a step back for the next year or two is not as big a deal to me, as long as you are building towards the real deal in 3 to 5 years, because Markelle Fultz is the next big thing. And that's how you win. They're not going to win a title in the next 2 years unless Gordon Hayward comes and something else incredible happens.
Things happen.
True. I think that.
It could.
Mm-hmm. My only thing I would say to that is you can get Gordon Hayward and still do that. You definitely don't want to impact the minutes with them, but I think kind of getting Jaylen Brown, I think it had a really positive effect on Smart, getting Markelle Fultz and Jaylen Brown in the same way in these playoff wars early in their career. I think there's something to be said for that. Like, I think Jaylen Brown being in the Eastern Conference Finals guarding LeBron James, I think that's really going to help his career. I know that's such an old man, like, hot take. Like, yeah, he's going to learn grit from being on that court. Grit week, yeah. Like, but I really do think there is some sort of intrinsic value to getting on a big stage, like watching J.R. Smith break the broom out and just being like, you know what? F- that guy. I'm going to win. I'm going to win. I'm going to go get in the gym this summer, and I'm never going to let goofy ass J.R. Swish, sweep in my face again. Like you build real animosity, which I think builds real hatred, which, makes you better. Hate makes you better. I guess that's my take.
Thanks for listening to Celtics Roundtable. For Evan Valenti, Lucky's Pipe, Matthew Ignal, Sam Sheehan, I'm Jonathan Levy. If you want to check us out on Twitter, we are at CLNS Roundtable. We'd love it if you could give us a 5-star review on iTunes. It really helps us out. We are going to be back soon to get into more of the draft, free agency, and all the other developments, so keep a lookout. We'll see you soon.